Hi, I'm Rael and I am a channel. I channel our guides and ancestors for insight, for support, and definitely guidance so that we can be empowered on these choices we have about the experiences we're here for. And today I would like to share with you what they've shown me for our 2023 and some of the exciting and probably easeful things that are coming on board for us. Some of the highlights are, of course, that we're going to have this beautiful grounding through the earth coming up to support our nervous systems. We're having new ways of relating to people and coming into our uniqueness with our own styles of thinking and being. The shift in how we're doing some more mundane relating, such as in money and connections with people, and exercise for how we connect with people from pure love. How our bodies are changing and growing and the support we need there and the breath and oxygen levels. The power and integrity in our conflict conversations. Some changes in the geography around us. And some really gentle guidance and nurture from our guides coming through. Support our clarity, our understanding, our emotional power, and finding that beautiful soul center that we're starting to shine out into the world. So let's have a look at what they have been sharing for me for our coming 2023. Well, the most exciting piece that they showed me in this last few days was how the vibration of the earth, what we might call the heartbeat or the rhythm of the earth, has almost opened up a new vibration or level, or come back to where it was originally, perhaps. And we know that scientifically we've had these solar flares, we've had these changes in our light in the last year, in our energies. For many people, that felt like overwhelm. And I think for everybody, that would have been overwhelm at some point. But certainly light showing us where to look, light showing us where there was healing needed. And now that the light has, I don't know if it's penetrated the earth or connected with the earth or triggered something in the old codes coming back out, but it has created a new way of grounding where traditionally we've grounded down into the earth, and over the last few years we've been able to ground out into sound, music, air, elements, our aura. And now they're showing me how the energy comes up, and it's like watching crystals and stalagmites form, that the energy just comes up in these beautiful pillars of light into us. And as well as providing, and it's across the earth, it's just as if the opposite of gravity, that it's just coming up to meet us. And primary energy that I'm seeing in our emotional response is a settling of our nervous system. So this energy seems to be about bringing us back in line with our original codes and purposes, and kind of equating that to modern day living. It's taking away that strive and pressure energy. And the physiological, perhaps, it's settling our vagus nerve, that whole system of how our emotional responses trigger such deep and very inflammatory responses in the physical. And all we need to do is take a moment to be present on the earth. So that might just be our micro pauses. What temperature am I today? Where am I standing on the earth? What is the weather feeling like on my body? These micro pauses that make us immediately present and centered. It helps clear energy that's been running that doesn't need to be there. But when we're doing these pauses or longer, walking the earth barefoot, being in the salt water, letting the sun or the wind move across your body, however you're engaging in nature, as soon as we do that, or we allow our time, meditation, contemplation practice, being present again, it just kind of, it's like it floods our system, but in the most gentle way. So I would say with consent for our guides to match our vibration, we're just bringing it in like oxygen. And what I'm noticing when I'm looking at the projection of this energy and how people are responding to it is for people who are taking the time, they are feeling finally calm, fearless, and also there's a certainty about who they are. And maybe this very distracting mist of what we're supposed to be doing with ourselves has just moved aside a little further. And we're much more into how are we here to engage so that we can do our service. That'll be in that brain processing piece we're going to talk about. And without that fear and strive and deprivation energy running, we are calmer, we are more powerful, and we are much more likely to be our authentic selves gently with really great boundaries. And we know that as we move towards these new versions of Earth, that will have grounding and integrity and uniqueness and communication. And as we're building these blocks, we get to have the support in our bodies to get there. So I find it absolutely fascinating that we have these powerful rhythms that match who we came here to be, our authentic selves, coming up from the earth, just like, as I said, it's like watching rain or gravity go the other way. It's just there and it's beautiful and it's available. So I feel like that's going to increase, or our awareness and access will increase. And when we deepen into about the middle of 2023, we're going to be able to literally move in and out of stress points by doing that grounding and having that settling of our system, that true centering, that opening of your soul energy, however you witness this to be, your connection to source, just clear and strong. So I am loving the fact that we're gifted with this, but also it feels so much like coming home. The next energy, we've had a few months of this already, and it is to do with how we are relating to one another. And I feel like some of the people that I've witnessed moving through this energy are the healers and the leaders, the coaches, the supporters for others. So if you've already been through this, then spend a little bit of time consciously processing how you did it and what were the key takeaways for you so that you can articulate that really well, because we're going to have a lot of people coming online, awakening or realizing their worth and reaching for support, right? And needing to be able to find their way through this. And my guides show me this as they're giving us so many tools and release points so that we're not running these old relationship styles, which are self-sabotaging in most ways. With these new ways of relating, we will just be able to go, well, how would I rather respond here? So let me show you a little bit about how this works. They say that when we were given our programs, which we know 2 and 3 and 4, so on, we're watching the people around us and learning how we, not only learning speaking and walking, but learning how to reflect on who we are. When somebody looks at us with a smile, we feel welcome. When somebody looks at us with a frown, we feel like there may be, or we interpret this as there may be something wrong with us. And that's where those damages to our self-esteem really bed down. So if somebody said to you when you were small or intimated to you, be seen and not heard, and then you move into lots of other relationship patterns. You might be 4 or 5 years later in the playground and there's a swing set and a slide, but you don't know whose turn it is or what the rules are. And you've been taught not to ask, to be seen and not heard, right? Not to ask. So you're more likely to be aggressive to hide that insecurity, or withhold and not ask and give yourself a lack complex, or make a mistake and feel that it was your fault because you weren't supposed to be seen or heard, right? So that's one example. We move it into maybe more adult life, and it can be as simple as one of your friends says, let's go to the movies, and you don't know how to ask or how to say what you would like or where your boundaries might be. And so you go, yep, sure, whatever you want, or no, I'm not really up to that, can't handle it. These are very short ways that we've learned in our relationships to not honor our needs or check our needs. And so a new way to do that, if you say to yourself, oh, that feels emotionally stressful to say yes or no to such an on the surface simple thing, you might be saying to yourself, well, how else can I talk about that? How else would I like to enjoy that? For me, it always comes down to checking your body, checking your energy. And, you may test, let's go for that cinema example. You may kind of go, oh, morning or night. And you could say, I'd like to go in the daytime because at night I'm really wanting to bed in at the moment. Or the opposite, I'd like to go in the evening because I'm feeling quite social and I want to have that in my lifestyle right now. You may even do it with the style of movies. I'd love to see something uplifting, or I'm really interested in something exciting. Or a personal piece of documentary, or something unrealistic like sci-fi, where you get to have your mind expanded by creatives who are channeling some really interesting information out there. And so the clue that you're running a relationship pattern that is still being learned on the back of one that wasn't loving and healthy. But also these layers are already, we spent 2 or 3 years really working out where these layers came from. So now it's just a little bit of our social patterning, our way of relating to people, moving it away from those win-lose kind of hierarchical, perhaps, but there's relationships where you move your needs out of the way for somebody else, or you please too much, or you stay in that avoidance kind of isolation energy so you don't feel triggered. So here, moving through this year, if you're feeling an emotional response, especially one that doesn't feel relevant to what's happening around you, this is an indication that you're automatically moving into one of those more self-sabotage styles of relating to somebody, and it no longer resonates. That's why the emotional piece, they tell us when we have these reactions. They tell us if we're doing something that maybe somebody's crossed our boundary, but this year it'll be about maybe we're trying to run a program, create a behavior or continue a behavior that isn't native to who we came here to be. So you can see it's quite gentle and loving if you want to pay attention and listen. And then you get to be really kind to yourself and go, well, I don't understand, but at least you've recognized that that's enough. The next time you might go, how else could I respond? What else can I do? So let's do a really simple example. Somebody's come over and they maybe stopped by for 5 minutes. And traditionally you might go, I don't want guests, or stay as long as you want. Do you want to stay for dinner, tea and coffee? How else can you handle that? You might say, great, I feel like I would love a little bit of time together. Have you got 20 minutes, even though they've arrived at your place? Or I'm so glad to see you. I'd love to spend time. What time do you have today? Right, checking that. Or you move into the serving refreshments, nurturing piece of our social relationships. And you might go, I don't feel like anything hot. Do you want a glass of water with me? Or I'd love to create something right now. Are you feeling hungry? So really very you-centric. What are you actually feeling and moving towards? And then communicating it. That's all you're doing. You're just checking and communicating and letting the other person respond. And what you're going to notice is how gentle this is for other people, because you're not telling, demanding, setting, judging. You're actually sharing. And when we share our truth and our needs, people move towards them. Unless it's outside their skill set, boundaries perhaps, or there's an agenda in play, theirs or yours, in which case you get a bit of pushback, but that always gives you that opportunity to check. So moving beyond this change in relating to other people that's coming in, and how that will be an emotional trigger, then we have another aspect called conflict conversation. And this for me is, I think I can't call them all my favorite bit, but I'm quite excited about how there's so much more ease if we choose to do it in this coming year. And with these conflict conversations, we are starting to be able to say, the things that we have resisted in case they don't like us. We get bad reaction. There's some kind of repercussion on us. We hurt their feelings. There's so many ways we've been taught to not say when we're unhappy or dissatisfied with something, because traditionally that's been a conflict, which means win-lose energy, which means you hurt their feelings or they're mad at you. You know, that's why we're saying repercussions. Now that we're in this win-win energy for the rest of our lifetimes and beyond, when we've checked what we are really thinking and feeling, not what they're saying and doing, what we are responding to and through, and we share that with somebody, we're more likely to be heard. Whether they respond or change their opinion is actually irrelevant. This is not about an agenda on the outcome. It's an unconditional conversation. Here's what I'm feeling. Here's what I'm going through. Here's what I'm not happy with. Here's what I'm confused about. And also, what have you done? What have you explored? Really sharing how that was for you. And then the other person gets to hear you and see if that makes any difference to them. That's fine. Move towards you or restate their case. Okay, fine. But then you don't get left with these circular conversations of would have, should have. You're not picking on yourself for not being strong and tough and all of those things you had to do in order to do these conversations in the past. So you will feel quite empowered and in your peace, and whatever consequence, whether they go, yep, cool, let's do your thing, or I don't want to do that still. Whatever the consequence, is easier for you to accept and receive when the energy has been fairly stated, shifted, and moved forward. Another really interesting thing that's coming in with this new Earth manifestation journey that we're all is in how we're going to be doing exchanges. So let's talk about that in terms of money and how money operates. When we want something or we give a service, there's usually some kind of energy exchange. For our loved ones, that can be a hug and a thank you. For people who support us or we want to nurture, that might be giving them a meal or they're helping us move. When it's public, often that is a money, a fee for service, getting wages, paying for your car, your groceries. They are very clear they want us to move away from this idea that you did that for me and now I owe you something. Right? That is very much not receiving. That is very much about independence and win-lose, one-upping, hierarchical stuff. So we're not going into this person has done it, I will do that for them necessarily. Just where is the exchange? And sometimes, for instance, you're helping somebody, it's not appropriate that they help you back because then in need, somebody else will help you. Okay, so these are energy exchanges. And when it's, as I said, when it's professional, that's most likely money. And some of the way we're going to be doing this over the next decade will change. And they want you to consider a little bit of an analogy, a story, another version to how to witness this. And the one that they gave me was in painting. So if you have spent the last few hundred years painting your story, your images, your daily life with an oil paint, and you have needed to pay attention to your prep, pay attention to those layers, make sure you give it time to dry, clean up with turpentine and chemicals, and have fumes and mess, perhaps, throughout your home and your space. Okay, so that's how they see how money has been for quite some time for us. And they're saying over the next, 2 or 3 years, over the next little bit, we're going to imagine that we're now moving into perhaps oil crayons, oil pastels, sorry. And so this a little bit maybe messy on your hands. You are going to have to clean your hands after. It's ready immediately. You can even mix and blend. You could do texture. You could create on different kinds of mediums. You might put some face paint, do it on your skin, right? In this analogy. So we're moving into something that is more tactile with brighter tones and colors and a softer, like the light in it is softer for us to view and look at. And then we're going to move further into, if I called it acrylics, our standard paint, the stuff we used at school, right? Light, easily cleaned, no real issues. You can keep it in a jar and mix it later. You can close the door without the fumes. You can paint on it almost straight away. You can mix it right there and create, which I know that we can with the others, but there's something about the ease in this analogy that they're talking about acrylic. So if we said that money, paint, the medium and the way we're enjoying it and the way that we're exchanging it is moving over time. And further down the line, we would call that light, like rainbows and visions of color. So there's a lot of ways that gets to change, and they want you to be allowed to go when you recognize on the planet that there's changes like this coming in. Okay, we're moving from our oils to our pastels. No problem. Less fumes, a little bit of cleaning. We're okay. One of my favorite topics in the last year is our brain processing style, and it's come on the back of this uniqueness that we're all moving into. Who did we come here to be is really who we are natively, our energy, our personality, our character. If anyone has had children or been around young children, you will notice that they come with their own personalities and ways of thinking and processing. So it's only as we move into adulthood that that's really altered quite dramatically by our suppression, our fears, our anxieties, our self-doubt. And of course, some allowance for being in society. I don't believe that's going to change. Part of being an energetic family is being considerate of other people's energy. It's just rolling that back to the idea that you have come here with your own character, personality, and brain processing style. And when we learn how our brains operate, whether we need systems to be able to get things in order or whether music makes us understand things, we know things like learning styles. Some people will learn by listening, some people will learn by observing, and others by doing, others by reading. Okay, we have different learning styles, so we already understand that. And then we have a concept of what is normal. And if everybody is different, normal must be 5% of us, right? Like there is no normal. And for those of us who have been through school in a normative environment, we would have found that not very many people are able to succeed there and feel loved and flourished and, engaged because it was only set for that 5%. And we already know that those systems are going to be upgrading into something far more interesting and collaborative. So how do you process things? How do you achieve things? What do you find easy to do? And what is the thing that you put off the most? For me, this tells me what is not within my native brain processing style. And then I need tools to be able to do that. Or if it's in a workplace, you may be outsourcing that. So it might be some people are really great at chatting and talking, and these are the people best suited to be on the phone talking to clients. Other people are really suited to processes and systems. Now, they may be analytical or they may just like organizing things, different brain styles. And these are people who can move through large bodies of work doing figures, numbers, accounting, data organizing, creating systems, planning, event planning, like some of these. Certainly there's a creativity in all of them that's a little bit different. If you're a scientist, your creativity might come from small micro or galactic knowledge, right? If you're in an office, your creativity may come in organizing something or holding space for somebody or creating lunch events. It could be anywhere in these spectrums of how our brains process, and where our skill sets are is largely within that aspect of how we function. And I'm finding that more and more people are talking about it. Some people are still talking about it in the more original and simpler versions we have come across, like being on a spectrum, having some autistic, ADHD, Asperger's style of brain function. So we have lots and lots of knowledge and data and tools out there. So if it's something that you want to navigate really easily, that would be a wonderful place to start. What is your brain function? And I like that they're continuing on this coming into science to find established tools. The way last year, I believe they did it in careers. This year, we're doing it in this brain processing style. Next year, it's probably food. We'll see. We'll see. And for some people, this is even how they're crafting their CVs now, that they're getting to go, here is how I like to work. Your intro sentence on your CV should be, what kind of working style? What are you looking for? Not, do I like reading, horse riding, and jujitsu? Right? Those are not going to tell people what kind of working environment you thrive in. And remembering that this is because, on the one hand, we're working less. We're not meant to be working these 40 plus hours unless it's something that we love, of course, and the energy comes. Energy always tells you where you should be. But with less people working, we still need some efficiencies. And with a reasonable exchange, if you're paid fairly, if there's a reasonable exchange for what you're doing, you also want to be contributing to the organization that is asking for that service without burning yourself out, without working for free, overtime, unpaid, or stressing in the weekends. And what is really joyful, as if we are working within our brain's processing style, we're doing what we're naturally good at, our way, right? It's not actually hard. It's easy for you to do. So you would be able to do more of your own creativity, of your own work style, workload, than the person sitting next to you. So this is where the efficiency comes in. Other people could take a really long time. If you ask me to do accounts, it's going to take me a really long time because numbers don't line up in my head the way words do. And so I have to go slower and double check. Other people, bibbity bobbity boo, it's done. I'm going to use my skill set over here, it's done. Everybody's joyful and happy. And if you want to have a good understanding of how that works, maybe just write a list of every single task you have at work, every single task that you have at home. What are the 5 you love doing and you want to do and you get on with, and that's your skill set. That's what you're naturally good at. What are the 5 you put off or avoid or always goes to the bottom of the list? This actually doesn't suit your brain processing style. So you will need tools or you will need to get somebody else to do those. If it's as simple as housework, it might be this person does that one and this person does that one. Could be physical. This person does all the high stuff. This person does the low, heavy, light, etc. And so this is more about your physicality or your brain style, what is native to you, instead of gender roles, suppression roles, any of those minimizing mindsets that we grew up through. And the next piece we have is to do with our actual changing of our land surfaces. And I'm really interested to see how long this takes, whether it's a year or 100 years, because even though we have had many pieces of information about erosion and oceans kind of rising up on one coast and the other coast perhaps lifting, and the weather shifting where the lowlands operate, things like this. Well, this year, we're almost seeing a rebalance of that, where more land is forming. So one example will be Hawaii. There's volcanoes that's bringing out more land. One day that will be incredibly fertile. So more land is being created there. In the south of New Zealand a few years ago, we had the South Island kind of in the east just kind of lift a lot out of the ocean and create more land there. Or a slight change in where the seabeds move. And so I feel like when we're moving towards some other areas in the world, and this might be Europe, for instance, where 10,000 years ago, what is now underwater was land. And we go back even longer, and what is now desert was underwater. So this is a natural progression. And they just want to say that there is supposed to be more, not less. And I'm feeling behind this movement some stories. So I'm hoping that means we're going to get some archaeological knowledge or something else comes through as well, which I think is really very exciting. And it might help you when we have these stories of changes for you to be able to reframe that into something about future positivity or releasing some other fears that you've been given. And I don't think this is unusual activity. We know, again, I'm in New Zealand, so I would go to our White Island and how that has been moving and erupting over time. We've got Tongariro, and that has been moving, and a little bit of rumbling, but certainly occasional eruptions coming and going there. And more than 100 years ago, more activity. Energy changes in our bodies are going to continue. And again, the last few years, well, this has felt really trying perhaps, having all of these new energies coming in. And over the next few years, because it's to do with healing, it's to do with regeneration in our body, and it's to do with clarity about how we're treating our bodies. So more and more of us are becoming more reactive to foods, energies that don't suit us. And we're actually moving towards a time where there's so much more healing and stability that that's not a long-term concern. But in the short term, where we are right now, and it's about being present, we need to be honoring these beautiful bodies that we've come in. And what is our nutrients? What is our rest? What is our downtime? And one of the biggest healing energies of this year, if last year was sound, this year is oxygen. This is breath. How much attention do we pay to our breath? Unless there's a problem, we really don't. And it's an automatic system, so we're not meant to. But the way that our emotional reactivity, especially in the last decade or so, has suppressed our breathing, has really limited our breath. Most people breathe up here somewhere instead of down there with our beautiful bellies lifting and moving as we do this. So look for the Qigong's, look for the Tai Chis and the Eastern breath work that comes all over the internet, all over the library. Then there's groups everywhere doing this. Or you might go deeper and go to breath work workshops. You might be doing yoga work, which has its own set of breath work or breath release. You may even just spend a minute in the morning before you get up, consciously breathing in for as long as possible and out for as long as possible, right? Oxygenating your body before you even use it. Take your time, investigate, play in those areas. It may be an exercise you may be moved towards, dance or more walking and gently moving that body of yours. For many people, the hip sway that comes from horse riding or cycling or gentle walking is really great for allowing the energy around those base through to your solar plexus chakras, allowing that to really shift and loosen, very, very rhythmic, and allowing that beautiful base chakra energy to start flowing. I feel like that's the one we're on now. The last few years, we've kind of been moving down on through them collectively. And this is much more about I am safe, I am here to be me, and how do we get that movement going? So I do think we're going to have an increase in body work, receiving support for our body, release points for our body, and our breath and our actual choice of nourishment, water, and movement. That's going to be really, really key to having an easy time in your body this coming year. Of course, if you don't do any of those things, then your body will find ways to show you. And for some of us, that's simply part of our destiny, our journey to learn it that way. But all of our lessons come early the first time. Should we have the time in our day to contemplate and find them? So we're talking about breath and nutrition, but also health and well-being. Okay, so it's quite important that we are paying attention to whether our body is liking what we're doing or needing some other version of support. And again, if with the emotional release work, the indicator was emotion, with the physical honoring, the indication will be in the physical. So if you are having physical disabilities, and we have so much more inflammation, right, on the planet, and so much more of our body carrying the tension of being in the wrong energy, having to strive, having to survive when we're built for love. So we want to pay attention and get that support and support ourselves with great choices. They say everything in moderation. But we want to make sure that there is nutrition and that there is hydration and there is movement going on. So add some of that to your day if you're not doing it already, and your breath. And then we came here to receive. So at all times through your year, if you give yourself the opportunity to receive, like our old gratitude diaries that taught us that we were allowed to do that we were allowed to be grateful, so we were allowed to receive, taught us to honor receiving and honor the people who were giving us these things to feel grateful for. But now without a back and forward, unconditional receiving. The sun is on my face. I'm receiving this glorious sunlight. This person has made you a cup of tea. I'm receiving this nurture. Somebody has asked for your advice and opinion. I'm receiving the accolade and the respect. Maybe even somebody brings you a gift. Many people find this very difficult because they don't know how to receive. It triggers lots of emotion of feeling worthless or of having to reciprocate. So the reciprocation, the owing, needs to be tabled. People make choice when they gift. When I gift to somebody, I'm making a choice that I want that person to receive something, not that I'm expecting to have some kind of rebalance from that. That's a conditional gift. And then they get to choose whether they want to receive it, because I have no control over somebody else's taste and values. It's either going to nurture them or it's something that they're going to be able to put a boundary up and move on from. That's none of my business. So when people gift you, whatever their agenda was or is none of your business. Let's receive or put a boundary in place and practice receiving. I came here to receive. I came here to be loved. I came here to be enjoyed. I came here to experience growth and learning my way. And I came here to contribute to the world in the ways that I have to contribute. Right? Such beautiful affirmations for our year. There's still some grief work lifting from us, lifting from the planet. So when you are feeling the grief of the world or grief of situations in front of you, then allow that grief to move through you if you choose, or find out, just check, is it mine, is it not mine? And if it is yours, let's just allow that some honor, some space, some time. We're not looking for solutions. We're looking for being allowed to have our emotional responses to things so that we don't try and stop it all and end up with emotional reactivity. And with the really beautiful aspects of this grief work, many people are able to come back out into the world and feel like they want to relate and begin to trust more the people around them, not because they have moved past this trust issue, but because their energy is powerful enough that they can actually feel whether this person is centered enough to be able to do the right thing. That's what trust will look like, not whether they will lie or whether they will hurt us, but whether they will be able to take responsibility for their emotional reactions and choices, instead of traditionally we've had our reactivity thrown at one another and self-sabotaging and very, very foolish behavior within our relationships. So trust takes on a really different energy as we're moving forward. And who we trust is going to be very energetic and less of this mind stuff. And the last thing that I want to mention, also with this opening up, we might move on from the word trust to heart space, right? And we have more of this awareness of what our heart, our soul energy, our spirit or our destiny is asking for us to feel and experience. And it's coming in line with us being able to clear and shift a lot of these programs that kept us in the we should, we shouldn't, who aren't we? And being allowed to go, well, who am I? How would I like to do this? And how am I responding to what's in front of me? So a lot of self-responsibility always. That's part of intuitive, spiritual, personal growth and empowerment, is being very aware of what you are and aren't doing with and for yourself, so that you can be really conscious of how you relate with other people. And for those people around us who aren't there yet and are not conscious and are not careful with their energies and their agendas, at least when we're checking our responses, we've got learning and growth. We can honor the experience and honor the people without having to make it about us, that we have done or not done or failed or not achieved or not been enough, because we are enough, and we're moving from being too much or not enough into extraordinary. And that's a very graceful, calm energy. It's very much about the more centered and true we are to ourselves, the easier we are to be around people, the easier we can have boundaries between us that we can honor, but the clearer and more truthful we can be. So it's a very strong energy. It's also very soft and centered. It's lovely. It's really, really nice. And I choose to spend a lot of my time there in between my processings and my acknowledgement and contemplation of what's coming for me to look at. With this heart space opening and this mind speak being a lot less sabotage, I know I'm repeating that word, but it feels like that's where we've been all of these years, that we're actually going, what am I feeling? What's a priority for me? What are my values here? And again, some of this can't be articulated. It's a feeling, it's an energy. And they're very clear they don't want us to be in proof or evidence or justification energy of a feeling. A feeling is a feeling. That's actually the purpose of it. But what can we do? What can you do now? What would you like more of? What would be more loving? What can you do with these feelings? And it's not about the other person. If the other person is triggering you, what can you do? You can acknowledge that that's a trigger for you. Right? We're not here to change somebody. However, we are here to relate soul to soul in the most loving and powerful ways. And although that is not what we've come through in this lifetime, let's just do one quick exercise so that you have access to that love soul to soul. All right. All we're going to do is meet another person's soul to soul. And you might want to do that with a partner or a parent, somebody that you're in conflict with, a neighbor, a child, even a past friend, somebody that you didn't feel loved and supported through for whatever reason. And instead of having our emotional packages, agendas, programming, we're just going to imagine that we're sitting on a cloud or up in the stars together. No bodies, just this beautiful idea of light and mist of who each of us are. Right, our soul energy, who we really are authentically. There's no version where you are expected to hear or see or feel anything. Imagination is fine. You imagine that you're sitting up there in the sky somewhere. These beautiful, misty feelings of light, yours and theirs. So what do you feel like in this perspective? Allow that to come in where you feel gentle and powerful and so much love. Your authentic, your soul energy is pure love and power, but power as in honor, respect, and joy, experience, pleasure. And then let's go over and see what their energy feels like. It will be very different without the emotional reactivity that you're used to experiencing from them. So who are they in soul energy? And how easy that is to love and enjoy and to receive their love. And if you're in conflict with somebody, let's say a parent, partner, and today is not the day that you feel like relating, you still deserve love at all times from the people in your vibrational tribe. So that's a wonderful way to seek it, to be able to go up there and go, okay, you can't do this in a safe way with me right now, but I still want to receive that and just bask in their love and be allowed to love them completely without any defenses. And it's very, very releasing. So all the best for 2023. It has so many codes of ease and lightness and celebration and healing and love. Were you to make the time and a little bit of choice and focus, it's going to be a much easier way to navigate the learning and growth and experiences we've come here for. And if you're finding that you haven't done that and it's feeling a little bit rough and it's a bit of a bump for you right now, go back and try any of those options and see how quickly your guides allow you to remanifest. because our manifestation is higher and higher. Re-manifest what you came here to experience. Because I have noticed and firmly believe that when we're given a manifestation of a learning of a lesson and go, could you give it to me in another way, please? Why wouldn't they? We've done it 10 times. They're going to insist. That's where we feel a little bit rattled. So 2023, a beginning of all of our new ways of doing things, our new experiences, our new ways of relating to people, our new ways of receiving and creating. So it's an extraordinary year. New light, new shades, new tones, new colors, new access to our gifts, all of this increasing. So the possibilities are endless. And all you need to be doing is focusing on what are you thinking and feeling and experiencing and communicating and receiving. Hi, I'm Rael, and I'm an energy intuitive. I channel information from our guides and ancestors to help us find empowerment, support, and to be able to really walk in our own heart space and love ourselves. Thank you for spending time with me today. If you want more videos like this or access to my regular energy chats, meditations, and intuitive extension work, please go and have a look at my Patreon account. I have my Just Do You annual subscription available if you want to be doing a course-based version where you can work through your own empowerment and connection to your intuition, should that feel like that's going to be part of the solution for you. You have a year's access to the Just Do You seminar, courses, classes, meditations, extension events, and the energy information and sound bites that come through to me through channel and my own experiences working through energy here.